Hey, we want to welcome you here to Cottonwood Heights. I'm Mayor Galen Benyon, and it is May 5th, 2026. And we're grateful to all of you joining us here in person and online for our business meeting. And I have asked Councilmember Highland to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and join me in repeating the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
and under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we also want to recognize the absence of Councilmember Burrell this evening. She's just not feeling well. She'll be back with us soon. Now we'll have time for citizen comments. And the first card I have is for Chester France.
Hi, my name's Chester France. I live at Top of the World Drive over there, and I support Utah Renewable Community. Had Sean out. Thank you, Sean. Hats off. He came into the Lion's Den and talked to us for almost 2 hours. He did a lot of listening and really appreciated it. I enjoyed that. I really appreciate you listening. I got, the big question is, $4 will go up or down. And, what Utah Renewable Community says, and what if you're a customer thinking about it, it's $4. There is a spreadsheet made by Rocky Mountain Power which projects what's going to happen to these fees. So they show it's supposed to be $4.01, which is probably a rounding error. And then you go to 2028, it goes to $2.06. And then you go to 2030, and these are, by the way, these are in 2006 dollars. So they're assuming zero inflation, if you will. That's important. But anyway, 34 cents a month. So 2030, the fee goes down to 34 cents a month, and that's the projection. Now they're saying it's 4, but I just want you to understand that likely once they fill up the reserves, which I've highlighted for you, the price goes down significantly. And there's many guards in this program, guardrails and governance. And I've looked at this program thoroughly. And every time you look at it, it's just like, that makes sense. That makes sense. They try to take all the risk out of it. Anyway, I just want you to know that, when I buy food, I don't like organic food, so I don't buy it. A lot of people like organic foods. They like to choose. They want organic food, they buy it. This is the same deal. There are people out there like me who are willing to pay a little bit more on their electrical bill to help the environment, to help our community, and to help our air. And they want to do this. There's been very they're not feeling empowered, and they want to be listened to. And this program allows people who don't want to do that, they can opt out. If you do want to do it, it gives you a choice. It gives you a choice for renewable power. And a choice is a powerful thing. And there are people out there that are willing to pay a little extra to make this community better. And we should let them do that. We should give them that chance. I'm nervous today, and I've noticed I've been not doing very good speeches up here. And the reason I figured out today was this means so much to me. I feel a little bit like, it's like a pie. And, for 4 years, I really haven't been having pie. And then finally, I see the pie and somebody poops in it and I can't eat the pie. That's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Scott Bracken.
I promise this is not a habit. But again, I will read. I've always supported the many ways all the many things our city has done to keep our environment clean, including Tier 3 fuels for our police cars, hybrids where possible, the roundabout LED semaphores and street lights as soon as they were available, and City Hall to be LEED standards and to be solar ready. It has now got solar panels on top of it. I would also note that all of these options are local to our city. I want to set the record straight on my position on URC, the Utah Renewables Commission Committee, House Bill, whatever it was back in the day. I sat on the council in 2019 and 2021. I heard the presentations from our sustainability specialist. I went back and listened to those meetings in order to keep a few days ago to refresh my memory. It was very clear that the council that in order to keep the option of eventually joining URC open, there were some initial steps that needed to be made. That is how it was presented, and that's how it was voted on. Keep the option open. I questioned the opt-out part of the program then, and I still have reservations about it now. Anyone who claims my actions at that time were an unequivocal endorsement and support of the program would be wrong. Full stop. An opt-out clause in no way equates to the same choice as an opt-in clause, not logically, not ethically, and to claim so stretches the bounds of credibility. There have been anonymous notes placed on cars and elsewhere in my neighborhood denigrating Councilmember Highland for a decision she has not yet made, and encouraging people to threaten her with losing their vote for her doing her job with due diligence. How despicable and underhanded. Most people know that anonymous notes aren't worth the paper they're written on. If your position has merit, at least you can do is own it. I'm Scott Bracken. I served on the Cottonwood Heights City Council for 19 years. I served during the genesis of this conversation. I am not anonymous. I am also not in favor of joining the program as it is currently constituted. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Kenneth Garner.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much for serving for our city. I appreciate it. I'm Ken Garner, PE Electrical in Power. You know, 2/3 of America want renewable power, and almost 50% want to pay more for it, up to 10% more. Young people, it rises to 75%. Winter sports is likely over 90%. Utah actually has higher adoption than the nation, and Cottonwood Heights attracts people who like the environment, who like the Cottonwood Canyons. There's over 13,000 units, housing units and families here. How many, ask yourself, how many, if that's the nationwide statistics, want this program? I get that opt-out is distasteful to some, but I believe it's been mischaracterized as a moral issue and a focus on a small minority. The moral question is answered with a program like this one, with multiple mailed notices, website, newsletter, lots of time for free opt-out, and forever being able to opt out any month for the next 20 years. Look, it's ironic. The city council is looking at a tax increase. We don't get an opt-out on tax increase. Which is more moral? You guys voting for us to have a choice, or you guys voting for a tax increase where you may take some public content, but we don't get an opt-out? I think it's more fair to give people a single choice than some of the decisions you guys make. It's a difficult decision for sure. So then you got to look at what's the greater good? What's the greater good for our city, for our residents, for the majority of us? And when you basically look at the affordability, we're never going to get this chance again. So who is this in our city? They're early advocates of EVs and electrification of their yard tools. There's electricians and power grid workers. There's doctors, dentists, scientists, engineers like me, vegans and vegetarians, some of who changed their actual diet because of climate change. There's skiers, snowboarders, cross country, and others who had the worst snow ever. The youth who are depending on us for an example. Many residents put their time and money and passion behind one of more than 6,400 nonprofits in Utah, Protect Our Winters, Cottonwood Canyons Foundation, Save Our Canyon, Sierra Club, the Nature Conservancy, Southern Utah Wilderness Association, Utah Climate Action Network, Utah Moms for Clean Air, Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, Heal Utah, Tree Utah, Utah Wildlife Federation, UCARE, Utah Clean Energy Stewardship Utah, Utah Recycling Alliance, which is based in our city, Conservatives for Responsible Stewardship, and Utah Senate Bipartisan Clean Air Caucus. I've been to many of those events. Thank you. I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you. We have two more, unless anyone else needs to hand in a card. Next, we have Maggie Mills.
Hello. Thanks for letting me be here again tonight. I'm Maggie Mills from the Whitmore Library for Salt Lake County Libraries. Just a few things going on this month. We have Utah Puppet Theater this Friday, the 8th at 11 a.m. And the Babcock Performing Readers will do a Dragons Impromptu on Thursday, the 21st at 7. And if you come, you can share your favorite tale or poem about your beloved scaly mythological beasts. So it sounds like a lot of fun, something different that they're doing. And this month, there isn't as much going on. We're visiting our local schools for in preparation for the summer reading program. It'll start on the 29th. There'll be kickoff events at the Holiday Library, Bingham Creek, and one more that I don't remember, sorry. And, but summer reading runs June and July. It's just a lot of fun. It's for all ages, but it does have some really good benefits. One of the biggest would be that, especially your lower elementary kids, they have a bit of a backslide in their skills over the summer, and keeping them reading over the summer has proved to be very beneficial. So there'll be a lot of activities, and then read and earn prizes that include a book. So it'll just be a lot of fun, and I hope you'll join us too. Thanks.
Okay, our final card is for Jennifer Shaw.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. I thank you for your service and attention to public comments. I'm also here to urge you to renew the city's participation in the Utah Renewable Communities Program. My name is Jennifer Shaw. I've been a resident of Cottonwood Heights for 20 years and a participant in city government for almost as long, first as a planning commissioner and then as a member of the city's Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee. Thus, I have institutional memory of the values held by the City Council and long-term initiatives. The URC is a critical step for meeting the goal of obtaining net 100% renewable energy for the community by 2030. And this was set forth by Resolution 2019-66. That's just 4 short years away. If you vote no or vote not to participate in the program, you both disregard the long-held wishes by the community and the vision of your predecessors. So I and others would like to know what the alternative plan would be to reach that goal of net 100% renewable energy reliance by 2030. The URC program is purely voluntary. The rest of the City Council meeting tonight will be discussing a rise in property taxes as mentioned. Unlike the URC program, citizens cannot opt out of levied taxes. An argument to vote no against URC because of concerns about the opt-out aspect of the program costing just $48 per year is inconsistent compared to levying hundreds to thousands of dollars in taxes that we cannot opt out of. Also, voting no to the URC program takes away individual freedom to choose to participate, which seems counter to even the recent statement in the Between the Canyons made by Councilwoman Highland. And I quote, "On a typical day, we have freedom to choose. We can start businesses, decide where to live, choose our children's schools and activities, but we won't have the ability to choose to invest in renewable energy if we so choose to do so. We cannot join the URC later if we don't continue this program. The time is now." It also makes good business sense. Even if you don't support the idea of exclusive reliance on renewable energy, surely you understand the importance of diversifying our portfolio to minimize risk and market fluctuations, Titans of business like Meta and Google invest heavily in renewables, not because they're, eco warriors, but because they know it makes good business sense. And that they're less expensive and less prone to geopolitics as compared to fossil fuels. And we know that power purchase agreements work. Just look in our region at the University of Utah. Since 2021, over 70% of the energy use is from renewable energy sources. So it shows that it's possible. And the U has made these investments because it makes good fiscal sense. Affordability of necessities is a major concern for Americans, including residents of Cottonwood Heights. Please make the choice to maintain affordable local energy in Utah by voting yes to the Utah Renewable Community Program. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I would like to recognize and introduce Frank Nakamura, who is here. He is an expert on taxes and fiscal policy, and so we welcome him, and he may need to make comments as he guides us. So we are moving to our action and disclosure items, and the first one is 4.1, consideration of Resolution 2026-27, authorizing and clarifying certain retirement contributions and benefits. Our city provides retirement contributions to its qualifying officers and employees through participation in the Utah retirement system. And this is an item that we discussed further in our work session. Is there any further comment from our staff? And if not, then is there any comment from staff, from our committee, from our council member? Then at this point, I would welcome a motion.
I'll motion to approve Resolution 2026-27, authorizing retirement contributions and benefits.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I will call for a vote. Council member Newell,
Yes.
Council member Highland,
Yes.
Council member Holton,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. And we excuse Council member Burrell. We have 4.2, consideration of Resolution 2026-28. This is, I'm going to read this. Acknowledging the filing of the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026-27 prepared by City Budget Officer pursuant to City Code 106-111, adopting tentative budget subject to further review and consideration by the council, establishing date, time, and place for a public hearing on the tentative budget prior to adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2026-2027, subject to requirements of Utah Code 59-2-919 and 59-2-924, ordering publication of notices as required by law and ordering the tentative budget to be available for public inspection in the office of the city recorder and on the city's website for at least 10 days prior to the adoption of the final budget. Thank you. So, we discussed this also in our work session, and let's see. Yes, this is also an item that we need to be voting on. Is there any further comment by staff on this item? Yes.
So there's just a couple things that we need to make clear on this. We did have a very robust discussion, and anybody who's listening now, I would encourage them to go and listen to the recording of the work session that we had prior to this, because we had a very thorough and complete discussion of the tentative budget at that time. But a couple dates need to be noted here. That is on June 2nd at 7 p.m. or closely thereafter in this room, there will be a public hearing related to the adoption of the budget. And so that is an integral part of that. And then it is anticipated that we will adopt the budget on June 16th at 7 p.m. in this room or shortly thereafter. And then on August 11th at 6 p.m., there's a truth in tax public hearing and adoption that is anticipated on that day, in addition, as it relates to the budget. And so those dates need to be notified. Am I missing any others, Frank?
Just one clarification. The adoption of the budget, should you proceed with a property tax increase, will be in August 11, probably August 11th. That's your choice. You can always continue that decision. But there is a truth and taxation hearing on August 11th. So we anticipate then in June to be adopting an interim budget.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Any comments or questions from our council members? Okay, then I would accept and welcome any motion.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2026-28.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And at this time, I will take a vote. I will ask Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
No.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Thank you. Okay. Now we're at 4.3. This is the intended statement by the city's budget officer that the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026-27 includes a proposed property tax rate increase. And do we have any statement from staff at this point? That'd be 4.4. Okay. Okay, so that one we don't vote on, correct? Okay, then we'll move to 4.4, Statement of Budget Officer that the tentative budget includes a proposed property tax increase.
Okay, so just making the statement, again, reiterating that the tentative budget that has been proposed and talked about, it includes a proposed property tax increase of $3,500,000. That is approximately 42.87%, and will have an impact on the average valued home, which is $819,000 of $20.92 a month, or $251.03 annually. And those numbers will be trued up when we receive our final valuation numbers from the county after June 10th.
Now we're ready for 4.5. The budget officer will present and make available to the public a property tax impact schedule as a separate document from other budget documents.
So when doing a tax increase, in addition to just kind of showing how that falls into the budget as a whole, you have to specify the particular areas that the tax increase is going to fund, if you will. And so as we go through this, so I'm just going to more or less read this word for word. Cottonwood Heights will consider an increase to its property tax rate from 0.001300 to 0.001857. And this is estimated again based on the rates generated from the 2025 tax year, and they will be updated in June to whatever the final rate numbers are, to generate an additional $3.5 million, so $3,500,000. The following information is intended to provide decision makers and public with an explanation of how the city's operations would be affected if the property tax rate remains the same. In other words, if we do not follow through with the tax increase at the full amount. So the current property tax rate is 0.001300. The current revenue that we receive from that is $8,164,663. The proposed revenue with the tax change would be $11,664,663. So the net new property tax revenue for Cottonwood Heights would be $3,500,000. That is a 42.87% increase. Again, like I said before, the average home from the 2025 tax year was $819,000, and on that average home value, that would be $20.92 a month, or $251.03 annually. And on a business with an estimated value of $1 million, that would have a monthly impact of $46.44 and an annual impact of $557.28. So going through, and again, this is just our general fund only. The first column here, our city is divided into 4 departments. We have general government, we have public safety, we have public works, and we have community and economic development. And those are the 4 main departments of our city. Within those departments, we have a variety of different divisions, or however you want to look at it. And so the first column is our budget without the tax increase. And then the second column is our proposed budget with the tax increase. And then our final is the amount of funding that is not subject to, would not be funded until the property tax increase would be voted on positively. So if the property tax did not go into place, the first column would be the budget as it stands, and we would have to operate within that level of budget. So in the general government area, mayor and council, $385,073 would be the budget that we would have. The proposed budget would be $551,629 with $166,556 that would be funded by the tax increase. No change in planning commission or in the legislative and events area at this point in time. We did identify one item that we would change out of that, but we'll make that change later, probably related to the fireworks. Court and prosecutor and defender. So this is the city's municipal court costs, and that is budgeted at $440,000. No change anticipated there. City manager, $734,866 would be the budget. Unless we do the tax increase, then it would go to $770,239, a net amount of $35,373 of increase there. City hall administrative overhead is $627,729 if the property tax does not go into effect. If the property tax goes into effect, $727,729, $100,000 being the amount there, and that is, and just really quick, so the $35,000 is a combination of training and let me get my head wrapped around this, sorry, training and consultants. There, mayor and council, it's consultants and the newsletter and some other things, and this is described down in this area down below. And then this 100,000 here is a combination of maintenance on the city hall as well as insurance that is would not be increases that would not be funded there. In finance, $570,073 would be the budget if the tax increase did not go through. If it does go through, $576,586, $6,513. Most of that is training and some meal and uniform expense. In the attorneys, it would be $291,500 before the tax increase, $299,000 even after the tax increase. $7,500 is the amount that would be funding the increase, and most of that is just inflationary type increases for either the city attorney or the contract attorneys that we utilize. Administrative services would be $814,021 would be the budget prior to the tax increase. $826,534 afterwards. This is $12,513 that would be funded by the tax increase, as a combination of employee wellness and then some uniform and food budget for that. Emergency management, no change, from 20,300 to 20,300. Information technology from 1,298,932 to 2,033,437. And this is a combination of quite a few things: audio visual for the council chambers, the council workroom, and the community room, and a lot of software and hardware cost increases that we have, as well as some off-site disaster recovery systems that we have that are required by CGIS and BCI. So for general government in total, the budget would be $5,344,426. After, if we adopt the tax increase, it would be $6,407,386, or $1,062,960 would be the net amount of increase that would go to fund general government. And that's kind of summarized in here. It doesn't have the dollars, but it's summarized in here so that you can look at the details of that. In the public safety area, we have police, fire, and ordinance enforcement. So police budget would be $7,997,630 before the tax increase, and afterwards be $9,567,556. There's $1,569,926 that is proposed to be funded by the property tax increase. In fire, it would be $4,963,888. That would be the budget prior to the tax increase. The budget afterwards would be $5,173,068. The net difference being $209,180. And in ordinance enforcement, this is kind of interesting because it goes down, but it's the allocation of some insurance benefits that causes that to go down in this particular one. But $181,279 the budget before, and afterwards be $180,749, $530,000. That's just a insurance allocation. Now, in this particular department, there's, because we were operating at a deficit balance prior to coming in, this would have some of that. What's being justified up here in police is base budget. And so this would be a reduction from what we're experiencing now in terms of service, because we would have to reduce FTEs in order to make sure that we can land that budget where that is. And so, and that's the drawback. We don't have enough things that we added to the budget to, in essence, point the finger at the increases only for the tax increase that we're doing, because we've been operating in a deficit situation for years. And so we have to go back to point at our base budget going forward on that. And so that's a drawback to that. But there are also some increased expenditures from the current year, such as body cams and other things that would not be funded in police in addition to that. And then the fire increase, we would need to go and work that out with fire, how we would be able to operate without that increase, and possibly negotiate down to 3 FTEs in the terms of the size of the crews that they have on staff at each time, in order to be able to have that reduction. For Public Works Department, the net budget before the tax increase would be $1,924,157. The proposed budget is $2,233,096. If the tax increase goes into effect, the amount being subject there is $308,939. So there would be, again, a number of FTEs that would have to be reduced out of the Public Works Department if we don't do the tax increase, because there's just not enough of new items that we added to be able to account for the net increase. And then we'll also have some impacts in terms of the, sorry, that's the contracts down below here. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So that's mainly FTEs there. In the Public Works contracts, this is where we pay for maintenance of parks and fire hydrants and so on and so forth. The budget would be $820,690. If we don't do the tax increase, it would be $1,010,690, a net change of $190,000. And this is where the fire hydrants, $25,000, and then the I think it was $65,000 for the parks maintenance increase would come out of there. And so in here, it's a net total increase for funding of $498,939 in that department. And again, up in public safety, it's $1,778,576. Moving down into community development and economic development, community and economic development, we have our planning and economic development, and then we also have our building engineering and inspection. So the budget without the tax change would be $677,600. With the tax increase, it would be $837,125. So there's $159,525 that's subject to the tax increase in terms of funding. In the building and engineering and inspection, we don't have any changes there, so $303,000 in each. The $159 would be the reduction of 1 FTE, as well as there's some professional services and training that would be removed if we did not do that. And so in total, our budget would be $22,212,670, and then the proposed budget would be with the tax increase would be $25,712,670, and the total tax increase is $3,500,000, and that's what we're proposing that it fund as we go through all that. Are there any questions about this document?
Looks like Frank would like to say something.
Very thorough. Thank you, Scott. I just wanted to point out that the property tax impact schedule has been presented to you, the council, in your packets, and that it will be available for public inspection in the city recorder's office during normal business hours.
And we'll put it on our city website as well in the morning. So.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're at 4.6. This is consideration of Resolution 2026-29, acknowledging that a separate item is on the agenda for the public meeting on 5 May 2026, notifying the public that the budget officer for the city of Cottonwood Heights intends to state to the city's council, that the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026-2027 includes a property tax increase, acknowledging that the budget officer made a statement to the council in the 5 May 2026 public meeting that the tentative budget includes a property tax increase, acknowledging that the budget officer presented to the council as a separate item on the agenda in the same public meeting a property tax impact schedule separate from other budget documents as defined in Utah Code 59-2-924, and directing that the property tax impact schedule shall be available for public inspection and will be included as a separate agenda item at each public hearing prior to June 30th, at which the council discusses the proposed general fund budget for fiscal year 2026 to 2027. Frank.
I just wanted to make clear that this particular resolution is just acknowledging the steps that were made. In other words, the statement was made, the intent was made, the property tax impact schedule was presented. This is not voting on the tentative budget or any, that's simply an acknowledgement for purposes of the Utah State Tax Commission and the Salt Lake County Auditor that the budget officer followed these specific steps. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We also discussed this in our work meeting. Are there other comments from staff or council?
Well, thank you for making that clarification because we are not voting for final budget tonight. We are voting to engage in a process with our citizens for review. And so I appreciate that you've made that comment.
Okay. At this point, I would welcome a motion.
I'll make that motion to accept resolution 2026-29 as an acknowledgement.
Second that.
Thank you. And then we'll take a vote. Council Member Highland,
Yes.
Council Member Holton,
Yes.
Council Member Newell,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Now we are at the 4.7. This is not a resolution. This is just something I need to read. So, the city intends to make a statement that the city is considering levying a tax rate that exceeds its certified tax rate, the approximate dollar amount of and purpose for additional ad valorem tax revenue that would be generated by the proposed tax rate increase, the approximate percentage increase in the ad valorem tax revenue for the city based on the proposed tax increase, and that if the city proceeds with the proposed tax rate increase, the city will provide notice of and conduct a public hearing at which members of the public will have an opportunity to provide comments on the proposed tax increase. All right, these are just, so we all know what we're doing. Okay. All right, then we have 4.08, statement of the budget officer or city manager pursuant to Utah Code 59-2-9194B. And I will turn the time over to our budget officer, Scott Jerkes.
All right. Okay, so this is found in our in the packet for council, and again, is a requirement that we do this. So statement is required in Utah Code annotated 59-2-9194B. Intent, the city of Cottonwood Heights, the city is considering levying a tax rate that exceeds the city's certified tax rate. Approximate dollar amount. The approximate dollar amount of the additional ad valorem tax revenue that would be generated by the proposed tax rate increase is $3.5 million. Approximate percentage. The approximate percentage increase in ad valorem tax revenue for the city based on the proposed tax rate increase is 42.7%. Purpose. The purpose for the additional revenue generated by the proposed property tax increase is detailed in the property tax impact schedule submitted to the council on 5 May of 2026.
Hey, Scott.
Yep.
Can you just clarify the percentage, please?
The percentage, did I not say 42.87?
42.87, correct?
Okay, sorry. The city is committed to maintaining a high quality of life for residents through reliable public services and sound infrastructure and responsible financial management. The proposed property tax increase is being considered to ensure the long-term financial stability of the city and to sustain essential services that our community relies upon every day. A critical component of maintaining high-quality municipal services is the city's ability to retain experienced and well-trained staff. This is especially important in public safety roles such as the city's police department, where institutional knowledge, training, and and continuity directly impact the safety and well-being of the community without remaining competitive for these high-demand positions. The city risks losing skilled employees to other jurisdictions, resulting in an increased turnover, higher training costs, and potential disruptions in service levels. Investing in competitive compensation and benefits ensures stability within the workforce, preserves the city's investment in employee training, and supports the consistent delivery of essential services to residents. In the 21 years since the city's incorporation, the city has raised its property tax rate above the certified rate only once in 2018. That increase only balanced the then budget and did not provide planning for any cost increases in future years. For the past several years, the city has balanced its budget by utilizing reserve funds, also known as the Rainy Day Fund, to cover ongoing operational costs. In recent years, the city benefited from unique and temporary financial conditions. Federal recovery funds and 2 years of unusually strong sales tax revenues during and following the COVID-19 pandemic helped offset rising costs. A large portion of the reserve funding came from just over $6 million in federal pandemic recovery funds. While this approach allowed the city to avoid further property tax increases from 2018 until now, it is not a sustainable long-term strategy. Continuing to rely on reserves for recurring expenses creates structural imbalances that, if left unaddressed, would jeopardize the city's financial health. Since the 2018 property tax increase, the cost of providing municipal services has risen significantly. Inflation has increased and the price of goods, services, and labor. Additionally, advancements in technology, while improving efficiency and service delivery, have introduced new costs, including those associated with maintaining secure systems and protecting sensitive information. These necessary investments ensure that the city can operate effectively and securely in an increasingly digital environment. In the fall of 2024, voters approved a general obligation bond to fund the development of the town center project. At that time, the city projected that no additional tax increase would be needed for approximately 5 years. However, unforeseen complications, including the existence of 2 long-term leases, the need to acquire additional property for the project, and other project-related challenges have delayed the timeline for this development. While the town center is expected to provide long-term economic benefits and help offset future inflationary pressures once completed, those benefits are not yet realized. The current city council continues to actively evaluate all options to ensure that the town center project delivers maximum value to the community. At the same time, the city must address immediate financial realities. Without the proposed tax increase, the city would be required to make significant reductions to core services such as public safety, infrastructure maintenance, and community programs. The proposed increase is intended to stabilize the city's finances, reduce reliance on reserves, and preserve the level of service that residents expect and deserve. The City Council does not take this decision lightly and remains committed to transparency, fiscal responsibility, and the long-term well-being of the city. Opportunity to provide comments in a public hearing. If the city proceeds with the proposed tax increase, the city will provide notice of and conduct a public hearing as required by Utah Code annotated 59-2-9194C, at which members of the public will have an opportunity to provide comments on the proposed tax increase. The hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, August 11th, 2026 at 6 p.m. The hearing date is subject to final approval by the Salt Lake County Auditor.
Thank you so much. Now, is there any other further comments from staff or council? I would just like to state that immediately, pretty much in the beginning of this year, our council determined to organize a citizen budget committee, which met for a month and gave important and helpful contributions to us as a council and to our staff, and we are grateful for them. And in that discussion, we also determined that we will be setting policies for within adding to this budget, recognizing guardrails that we would like to have for future councils for our city, so that we can avoid using, such as not using one-time funds for ongoing costs. So these are some of the policies that we will be considering as well.
I'd like to add to that statement that the city, especially in an uncertain time in the pandemic, I can't fault our previous council members for making the decisions that they did. I think that we've done an excellent job as a city at stretching the taxpayer dollars as far as we possibly can. And I'm grateful that our House 41 representative joined us too, to see how painful this process is, especially the procedural part. Maybe you can influence that about what we might do in the future. But none of us likes to be in this situation. We wish that we could not have endured the inflationary period that we did, and that we could deliver a lot more with a lot less. But we're finding ourselves in a place where we have to at least consider what that might mean for service levels and for the future of our city. So I appreciate that all the work that our staff did. I can't imagine the number of hours that Budget Officer Scott Georges has sat staring at spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet to try to prepare for us, and so that we can engage in a public comment process about what residents would like to see for our city. So thank you.
Any further comments? Okay. Ready for 4.9, consideration of Resolution 2026-30. Acknowledging that a separate item is included on the agenda for the 5 May 2026 public meeting, notifying the public that the city's budget officer or manager intends to make a statement as required by Utah Code, annotated 59-2-919 4B. Further, acknowledging that the budget officer or city manager made the statement as required by Utah Code, annotated 59-2-909 4B in the 5 May 2026 public meeting, setting the date, time, and place of the public hearing on the proposed property tax increase as required by Utah Code, annotated 59-2-919, and directing the city manager or designee to send a notice before 1 June 2026 to the Utah State Tax Commission and the Salt Lake County Auditor, stating that the city is considering a property tax increase and the date, time, and place of the public hearing required by Utah Code, annotated 59-2-919. So now, is there any further comment? Oh, good. Frank.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Hate to be tedious, but this again is a resolution clarifying steps that we've just taken. Also setting the public hearing for the proposed tax increase on August 11, 2026, 6 p.m. or soon thereafter, and also directing a notice that has to go out before June 1st to the county auditor and the tax commission of the August 11, 2026 hearing. Of course, the county auditor has the option of switching that date should there be overlapping hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any further comment from our council? All right, then I would welcome a motion.
I will motion that we approve Resolution 2026-30, acknowledging that we are setting these public meetings and giving notice to the tax commission as required by the state code.
I'll second.
Thank you, and I will take a vote. Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
and Councilmember Newell.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. We are going to postpone the consent calendar for further preparation of our past minutes. And I would welcome a final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We adjourn this meeting and thank you for attending. All in favor? Aye.
Hey there. A little question. I'm just, if I heard you wrong. When you're giving your sample rate.
You did fall.
$50,000 in value. The streets, the you said $1 million. Is another 250?
Well, yeah.
Something?
So for a business, so what happens is you take this amount, times it by 55%, that's your taxable amount on a home. But on a business, you don't.
Okay, I thought you said five. So it is 500. So how does the 800, how does the 18% increase in value get you 100%?
It's because there's a 55% discount on a resident in terms of your taxable value. So if it was $1 million of primary residence, you'd only be taxed on $500,000 net value.